What's up, everyone? The new threats have broken up, and Will and Nany have done the opposite. We've got so much to talk about, so welcome to your challenge breakdown. What an episode of the challenge, vets and new threats. We are really starting to see the different sides of the house crumble. From the start, this theme that has been implemented, the vets are there and the new threats are there. It's starting to dissipate because people just can't hold it together. I will give the vets credit that I feel like they've been holding it together way longer than the new threats have, but these new threats, there's too many weasels amongst the mix who are trying to get approval from the vets and running and spreading information, and it finally came crumbling down. I think it was for the best because I feel like these new threats now need to try and integrate themselves among the vets so they can make it further in the game, because let's be real, they were never going to stick together, especially when you've got people who are trying to siphon information out of them and then just run right to a certain vet, Olivia, and give her everything she needs to know. Olivia's done a marvellous job, I must say. But she took a hit this episode, and we're going to talk about that very soon. But first of all, we're just going to rewind all the way back to the beginning. And one of the first seeds that was planted in this episode was, are Will and Nany going to get it on? Because there was a little bit of, they were lying next to each other, feeling a little bit comfy. And then, not 30 minutes later, there was some, if you've got any younger people with you right now, just close their ears. I can't even sugarcoat this, some loud moaning from Nany. There was some very loud moaning. It definitely sounded like, I have to analyse everything. She was having a good time. I'll tell you who wasn't though, Cedric. Poor Cedric. This is what's worse about it. It was a bunk bed. They went boink boink on a bunk bed, and Cedric was on top bunk. So, pound, moan, wham bam, thank you ma'am. They were done, and then Will does the most polite thing he could have done in the situation, is stand up, reach over to the top bunk to Cedric and go, I'm sorry, and then trotted away to the bathroom to clean up. I didn't expect to be updating that one as the first update of the day for the challenge, but here we are. Boink boink on the bunk bed. Now, the challenge came around pretty quick in today's episode, and it was really cool. For F1 fans, this was going to be a dream come true, but basically they had to go around a track in these carts that would go up to almost 70 miles per hour, which is pretty scary when you're not in a car. That's a little bit terrifying. All you got is a helmet for protection. It's a lot. And then, obviously, one person in the partnership would do all the driving and one person would focus on puzzles. And my word, it got messy with people screaming at one another. So, we're going to talk about the results very soon, but I want to single out one person, because this is what I've been doing these past few weeks on my challenge breakdowns. I kind of pick somebody that stood out in each key moment, and I just break down what I'm thinking of what's going on there. And I think the person we need to talk about is Ashley. For weeks on end, I have been thinking about talking about Ashley, but there's been so many other things to talk about, so I've had to kind of push that to the side. But the numbers are starting to dwindle down more, which means more airtime and more focus on certain people. So here we are, folks. Let's talk about Ashley. I am quite frankly, I'm not warming to her, if I'm being totally honest. I can already understand why she is brought back time and time again, because I can tell she brings drama, but my God, she is so rude. She is so mean and rude, and the way she speaks to people as if they are dog crap on the bottom of her shoe is very telling, and it just doesn't breed well on a social game. But people seem to like her, so I need you guys to make it make sense for me. But I think she's very erratic and rude in the way she talks to people. I've seen time and time again, in these challenges, she never actually takes accountability if she does something wrong. She just pawns it off onto the guy that she's paired up with, and it's kind of shocking to see. On a reality TV perspective, I'm like, hell yeah, this is great entertainment, and I'm sure she'll be brought back again and again and again, and we'll be having this conversation again and again and again. But on a personal level, I can't help but think you are so rude, and it's unbelievable the way you think you can talk to people. But yes, I guess it works because they didn't end up as the losers, so I guess well done to them. But actually, I don't know. I feel like this is going to come and bite her in the back before before she makes it too deep in the game. And what I am curious about, you guys are going to have to tell me this, has Ashley won the challenge before? I feel like most of these vets have won it. I know a lot of them have done season after season and never won, but I'm wondering, has Ashley won the challenge? Y'all are going to let me know down in the comment section below. So by the end of this challenge, with all this screaming at one another and all this racing around, it was really high octane and really cool. I was so glad to see CT and Anissa together. That was a powerhouse. You know, even though I haven't seen previous seasons, I can just tell that's a powerhouse pair. And CT did bounce back this week. Last week, of course, was a little bit touch and go when he couldn't get up the ladder. And Turbo was giving him crap about it, and they got into that big screaming fight. It wasn't the greatest week for CT, but this week he managed to prevail, so well done to CT and Anissa there. But the winners were Nany and Leo. Massive congratulations to Nany. She's had a very good night, if you know what I mean. And Leo, also a very good night, because he's won 2 challenges in a row, which is incredibly impressive for a new threat, so well done to those two. Now, on the other side of things, we got to look at the people who didn't perform as well, the losers of today's challenge. I've got my notes right here. I was very, very sad to see Tay and Jeremy be the losers of today's challenge. 2 people of the new threats that I have warmed to a lot. I really, really like both of them on a personal level. I just warm to them. I vibe with them, and I just think they're cool. So I was very disappointed there. And I was kind of expecting it to be a men's elimination with this whole coin flip thing. I don't know really what's going on, so I was thinking, oh no, because I like Jeremy more than I like Tay, so I was like, oh no, Jeremy's going to be in the sand. But then all of a sudden, you know, we are told, actually guys, it's a women's elimination. Okay, thanks TJ. Is it random? I feel like it's a coin flip, isn't it? That's what they said in the first episode. I was shocked though, because there was women's last week. But yeah, women's elimination, which means Tay would be in the sand, but it would be a matter of who would she be going up against. When the contestants hit the club, there was a lot of interesting social dynamics at play, and there's a couple of conversations I'm going to single out that stood above the rest. Sydney, let's talk about her for a second. She, of course, is from Survivor. She was on one of the few new era seasons that I've actually seen, so I can talk about Sydney a little bit more than I could say Dee, whose season I actually haven't seen. I plan on catching up on all the seasons before season 50, and I'm planning on watching 49 in the coming weeks. I've actually just announced yesterday on the channel that I'm going to be covering season 49, so I'm definitely excited for that, to throw myself back into Survivor. It's been a minute, but yeah, with Sydney, she was a villain on Survivor, and she's a villain on this, even though Jeff Probst says villains don't exist anymore. So let's talk about her. She has her hand in all the melting pots. If we were to put a power ranking of all the new threats, we were to say who's got the most and who's got the least, I would put Sydney very close to the top, if not the top position, because I know a lot of people would say Leo, but Leo is doing it. He's got the power, but people realize it, whereas Sydney's got the power and people don't or aren't actively going after her because she's kind of positioned behind Leo. When people take a big shot at the new threat, so say, we need to get a new threat out this week and it has to be a big target, it's going to be Leo, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. Maybe there'll be people who go before him, but when they definitively want to make that big move, the big move will be Leo. But Sydney is, she's doing incredibly well. She's good with the vets, she's good with the new threat, and she's bringing these conversations together. And there was one specific conversation I'm just going to read out from my notes, where, you know, she was telling Dee in America that she wants to put Izzy in the sand because of all the stuff with Olivia. Of course, we know last week the new threats tried to band together, and then Izzy just trottled onto Olivia and said, "Hey Olivia, here's everything we just discussed, and I'm just going to deliver to you on a silver platter because I'm playing for you, not for me." I can't stand those kinds of players. I have had a soft spot in my heart for Izzy because she is a Brit, and of course I got to look out for my fellow Brits, but at the the same time, she is she's one of those players that I would be complaining about if I was watching her on Big Brother. I've talked all season long, if you've been watching Big Brother season 27, there's a house guest in there called Lauren. And she's not playing for herself, she's playing for one other guy. Every single time she gets power, every single time she gets any form of thing that could bump her game up, she does use it, but she uses it to somebody else's benefit more than she uses it to her own. And that's exactly what Izzy has been doing with Olivia. So Sydney wants to grab the bull by the horns and say, enough is enough, we gotta take her out. And then that conversation between new threats expanded into some of the vets, and this showed how good socially Sydney is doing right now, because she was able to tell this core of new threats and then say, okay, now we're going to bring in a few more new threats and tell some of the vets. That's a baller move for a new threat to do. So then she was able to tell Nany and Ashley and Aviv and saying, what's going on is Tay wants to go up against a vet. She is the kind of go big or go home situation with her, and she wants to go up against a vet. But of course, Sydney was telling vets that, so the plan started to spiral more, and Jonah's name was thrown out, Jonah, and I've never seen, in this season so far, there has never been as many names than there has been this week thrown out. Yeah, it was a lot. So at this point, several names have been thrown out, but it felt like Sydney was kind of spearheading things, and I don't know, I feel like Dee had a hand in things as well, but basically, even though the new threats were splintered, they are playing, and that's impressive. They were holding their own with the vets there in those conversations, but yeah, Izzy's name kept getting brought up because of the fact she keeps running back to Olivia, and nobody can trust her. Dee, Sydney, Jonah and Izzy's name were thrown out the most before the jury vote, and then it came down to Nany and Leo having to decide who they would save so they would not end up in the sand. Nany and Leo did decide to save Ashley, and this is, and Theo obviously as well, but I'm focusing on Ashley because it's a women's elimination and because I've just been talking crap about Ashley's social game, but something's working for her because they picked her, and I don't know, maybe she's one of those people who's just, that's her reputation on the challenge and people accept that, but it doesn't stop it from other people probably being annoyed at her, and I do think that's going to play out in the coming weeks. But yes, well done on Ashley and Theo for receiving immunity. Nany did also state it's because of her tighter relationship with Ashley. It sounds like she hasn't worked with her much before, but she made the point of saying, I'm so glad we're working together this time, and I'm happy to save you. And then the votes were all over the place. There's usually 2, maybe 3 at a push names that were thrown out, but there was 5 names on the vote tally by the end of the vote. Let's read them out. Anissa and Sydney got 1 vote each, so they caught some flack there. I mean, Anissa, I know, has been catching flack week after week because people feel that she's trying to play all sides, especially when Jonathan Bananas, yes, using the government name again, when Jonathan Bananas was still in the house. Sydney, of course, I feel like as much as Sydney wants to hide the fact that she's operating all sides, people know she's a villain. They've seen her on Survivor, so I wasn't surprised maybe 1 vote got thrown away. And then with 2 votes, Dee's also becoming a figurehead in these new threats as well, with people going, it was Dee did it, and it's not always been Dee, but that's the theme that's been happening, going, it was Dee, it's 100% Dee, we have to vote Dee, and I'm like, Dee does some stuff, but I wouldn't, not to the extent some people are trying to make out she does stuff. And then Jonah, new girl, she got 3. She got 3 votes. And the thing with Jonah is, I say new girl, she's a vet, but she came in 3 weeks late into the game, and that's a tough position to be in. So I don't expect it to make it deep in this game at all. Like, check back in a couple episodes, 3 episodes time maybe. I don't necessarily think she's still going to be there, but hey, we'll see. But then the person with the most votes, because it was that snowball effect of everybody I think Sydney, I really think Sydney stoked those flames in those conversations. She got Izzy. Izzy got 4 votes, and that was enough, even though it was 1 vote between. The vote was so split that they only needed 4 to send Izzy in, so Izzy would go up against Tay in the sand. We need to talk about everything Izzy was saying after she was voted, because she was doing the whole, I can't believe you would put me in against a friend. And I'm like, I feel like the only Brit awake right now, because I'm like, this is how these American reality shows work. Wake up, do your homework before you go in. Like, people don't give a crap. Honestly, it's better if you go in with your friend, If you send somebody in with a friend, you're ensuring that somebody is going home that's a vote together. So that's the better thing to do. So is he being all like, I can't believe you would do this? I just thought that was a little bit ridiculous. And I just thought, maybe brush up on these things before you play these American reality show competition games, because it's just not how it goes down. It's not cordial. It's not like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do the nice thing. No. We want to see gaming. So unfortunately, to my fellow Brit, I needed her to. I'm gonna use another British phrase. Grow a pair. I'm kidding, but basically, she was doing all those isms that you always get on British TV, where it's, is what it is what, oh, it's is what. I've heard that so many times on Love Island UK. Is what it is what it is. And I'm like, is what it is? No, get off your arse and try and compete. It isn't what it is. Anyways, the sand came around and there was a big game board where you would have to throw a basketball up into a hoop, depending on how high you got it into the hoop, because there was 2 hoops, one lower down, one higher up, and then it would make its way down this obstacle floor, and then you would have to run off, stack bricks on podiums, get back, catch the ball before it hits the ground, do the same thing again. It was stamina to the max, cardio to the max. And Izzy had a terrible start. She went out and she knocked one of her podiums over, and it was like the bloody Leaning Tower of Pisa. And everyone's going, Izzy, make it straight, turn it up. And she just wasn't listening. And it was like, and she was stacking the bricks on a slant, and I'm thinking, just listen to everybody screaming at you. And then lo and behold, the stack went down, hit the ground, and I was thinking, Are we just playing here? Are we just messing around? Like, people have told you to straighten it up, and she didn't. So then Tay was comping out. She was doing really well. And then all of a sudden, Tay hit a roadblock because she couldn't land the hoops. But then eventually she overcame that hurdle, managed to get it in top hoop, and she crushed Izzy. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. She absolutely crushed Izzy. I really like Tay. I like Tay probably more than Izzy, even though it's a fellow Brit there. I love my Australians as well. Australians, you guys are cool. I don't know if there's any Australians watching this right now, but if there is, please say hi. You are awesome. Well done, Tay. Tay survives another week, and Izzy is gone, weakening Olivia. Possibly Olivia's weakest week yet, because she lost the person who's been slipping her all this information, and people are going to all of her minions, and then all of a sudden it's just her, and she isn't really doing the best job of counteracting that or turning the move again. I feel like there was a moment in time in which she was doing that, but I feel like she's not doing much to counteract the anti-Olivia move right now. I mean, there's not much you can do, though, when a lot of people are against you, but I want to see more. But this was definitely Olivia's weakest week, with Izzy going out the door. That was her number one informant, who slips her every single bit of information without even thinking about her own game. So Olivia's going to have to evolve over these next few weeks, because Will's now the hangnail as well. He might be the hangnail, but he did get to nail in this episode. That was bad. But I went for it. And I'm going to leave this in. I'm not going to cut it out. I'm proud of that joke. Wow, what an episode. What an episode, gang. Things went out with a bang. And there was a bang. I gotta stop. Commiserations to Izzy. Maybe she'll come back in future. I hope if she does, then she brushes up more and gets herself into the game for Izzy, not for Olivia. And isn't so much is what it is. And I can't believe you put me up against a friend. Get out of that mindset. You got to get gung-ho with these games. That's my advice to Izzy there. But yeah, I enjoyed watching Izzy. I really did. On a personal level, she seems absolutely lovely. And I've always got to support a fellow Brit. So I hope if she comes back next time, she comes back guns a-blazing and doing much, much better than she did this time. But well done to Tay. Australian legend comes through. And she won Big Brother. I haven't seen her season on Australia, but I know it's a feat to win Big Brother, whether it's the popularity vote of the audience or if it's the social game of the US version. It's impressive either way, so well done to her. She also seems just really likeable on a personal level. So Tay is coming through. I am so happy for her. I want to see where she can get in this game, what damage she can do. But yeah, Will is the new hangnail. So, a new segment I introduced last week was MVP and I guess LVP, where I pick out somebody who was the best player this episode, or who had the best episode and who had the worst episode this week. And I found MVP way easier to choose than the LVP this week. So I'm going to start with LVP and just get that negative one out the way. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be Olivia. She lost her biggest confidant and person who would give her everything without even asking for anything themselves. So she's definitely going to have to switch up her strategy moving forwards, because what can you do when you haven't got that person anymore? You're going to have to play a little bit harder. So yeah, LVP, unfortunately. It was hard to pick because nobody really had an atrocious week, but I would say because of Izzy leaving and that kind of siphoned one of her numbers, it has to be Olivia. Now for the MVP, it's Nany. Nany won the challenge. She got some dick. Congratulations, Nany. You are the MVP of this week. The mysterious points that have been building up over the first few weeks of people, you know, when you finish in the top 8 in the challenge, then you get a bunch of points, then we see that big leaderboard in the house. They're finally coming into play. TJ announced what these points are actually going to do, and it's pretty detrimental when these numbers start to dwindle down. He said that the people with the most points will get first pick on their teammate for the rest of the season. That is going to be huge when the numbers dwindle down, because you don't want to be stuck with somebody who can't perform. But I've got to say, I feel like everybody can hold their own here. There's nobody atrocious at the challenges, because, you know, you shouldn't be there if that's the case. I've seen people bounce back from being in the bottom though, and then they get all the way back up to the top. It's really impressive. But yes, I think being able to pick those people who have a track record of winning more, that's what it's going to be, rather than not picking the ones who are bad. So if you can get Michaela on your team, if you can get Leo on your team, if you can get Nany on your team, people who can win challenges and have done it time and time again, and that's going to matter so much when the numbers dwindle down. That is all of your challenge breakdown for today, folks. I thoroughly hope you all enjoyed watching. This season is really heating up. I always get more invested into a season the deeper it gets. And that's what I'm finding with the challenge. I've really enjoyed it so far. But I am enjoying now how focus is starting to shift onto certain people more, because at the beginning there was so many people to spread it out for. And that's still the case now, but I'm noticing the shift, which makes me think it's only going to get better as the focus comes down on certain people. I miss Johnny Bananas dreadfully. I really am enjoying CT. I want to see how far he gets it in the promo for next week. He's climbing up this rock wall, and Turbo gives him some crap again, saying, "Oh, now you can climb, CT." I was like, oh, things are starting to get juicy, and they're only going to get juicier. I am so freaking excited, and I want to thank everybody who's been along for my challenge journey so far. It's been so much fun covering this, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. As always, I want to leave the floor open for feedback, constructive criticism on what you guys want to see in these challenge videos. I'm still working out the kinks of this because I'm brand new to the challenge, and any recommendations that you guys have, please let me know in the comment section below, because I want to make these videos as fun and as entertaining and as engaging as possible for you guys. That's why I'm doing it. So, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope that you're all staying safe, staying positive, and staying healthy out there. And remember to be kind to one another. But in the meantime, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that wonderful stuff. But until your next challenge breakdown, I've been your host, Tom VASEY. Good night.